Queen's University.
Fun, insightful interviews from a Washington McKnight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Now, here's Rob McKnight.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to McKnight Tonight for this wonderful Wednesday. It is the 13th of August 2025. Around the world, it's International Left-Handers Day, celebrating the 10% of us who live in a right-handed world. Can I just tell you, as a left-hander, one of the worst things is when you might need to go back. Sorry, Amanda, I'm throwing chaos into the world. Is because we write here smudges. And I've had to write cards like this and I still don't get it right. Anyway, the life of a left-hander. Now, don't forget, if you ever miss an episode or want to dive deeper into the show, make sure you head over to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. That's youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. It's also a great place to leave your feedback, and I will get to your feedback throughout the show. Let me bring you a preview of what's coming up tonight, because police on alert as far-right groups push anti-immigration rallies for the end of the month. Netflix hits Aussies with its 6th price rise since launch, and why the company might want you to go on its cheapest plan. And later, the back-end quickie is back. We'll fit one in tonight, and it's featuring a fishing mascot and a very curious bear. It's the one I tried to bring you on Monday. Okay, let's get into our hot topics. And just when you thought the childcare crisis couldn't get any worse, the ABC has dropped a shocking story today. A Victorian childcare worker, blacklisted for grooming toddlers, still held a valid working with children check years after being banned from the sector. Now, this comes despite a 2024 prohibition order and substantiated findings from Good Start Early Learning. Here's part of the ABC report, which explains the investigation from Good Start.
The investigation noted that the male educator would only change the nappies of girls, referred to certain children as his girls, bought them gifts and asked parents to send photos of their children to his work email. The investigation found the worker presents an unacceptable risk to children and should cease employment with Good Start, and that his conduct can reasonably be construed as grooming by communicating with parents with the intention of gaining physical access to children. The report urged authorities to reassess his appropriateness to hold a working with children check, but it wasn't revoked and was later renewed. It's still valid today. The ABC understands that 4 years after the first complaint, the man was slapped with a prohibition notice, blacklisting him from the sector. We don't know why. That information and the order itself is kept secret from the public.
Okay, so we've got a situation here where the childcare company, Good Start Early Learning, they actually look like they've tried to do the right thing here, where they have raised a red flag. They've said something's not right. They've done an investigation. They have blacklisted him. They've then gone to the authorities and said, this is not a good person. But the guy has been able to keep his clearance. And he's even been the subject of a prohibition order. So they've already found something wrong. This is a situation where it can't be a 3 strikes and you're out, 1 strike and you're out. We always try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but this is beyond the means. And as you can imagine, this story has caused such a major uproar today that it forced the Victorian Premier to respond this morning.
What's really clear is what's happened in these circumstances is not acceptable. It's not acceptable, and that is why we need to strengthen the system. And I have been clear about the need to strengthen the system from day one. I am advised, some very recent advice I've received this morning is that there is a process that's being worked through to cancel that particular individual's working with children's check. But it's absolutely clear that that's not acceptable.
Not acceptable and takes too long. Yeah, it's not acceptable, but it's been allowed to happen. How does it happen? A guy who was found to be actively engaging with children, touching them, trying to befriend their parents so that he could get that closeness and that access. This was flagged. This was found. And it wasn't enough to get him banned. No wonder our childcare sector is in trouble. This is ridiculous, and things need to change. They need to change fast. This is going to sound over the top, but our kids are depending on us.
Here comes McKnight tonight.
Just blows my mind. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section of this video. I will be getting to your feedback soon. All right, police are on alert ahead of a planned anti-immigration rallies across the country on August 31, promoted under the slogan, "Take Our Country Back." The events have been heavily circulated on TikTok and X, attracting support from far-right and white nationalist groups, including accounts linked to neo-Nazi networks. Authorities say the protests are being backed by individuals with a history of extremist activity and could pose a risk to public safety. Police in New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, the ACT and the AFP are monitoring the situation closely despite no official protest permits being lodged. While organisers claim the rallies are grassroots, the amplification by extremist circles has raised fears the events could become a flashpoint for violent rhetoric and intimidation. You know, I've seen a lot of headlines about this. And at first, the people who were against this protest, I was thinking, it's okay, you're allowed to be proud Aussie, but there's a problem with this. Can you bring up that flyer again, please, Amanda? So we've got a situation where they're saying it's time to take our country back. Well, from who? It's time to defend our way of life. It's time to defend our culture. Stop mass immigration now. Bring your family, friends, bring your flag. No foreign flags. It's time to put Australia first. So I like the idea of supporting Australia and standing up. You know, we saw neo-Nazis in the streets of Melbourne the other night over the weekend. Shocking. I showed you pictures on Monday of people burning the Australian flag. Can't stop. A guy got punched for holding an Australian flag during a pro-Palestinian protest. That is not acceptable. And so when you see these things, you understand why Middle Australia, which I consider myself to be one of, Middle Australia wants to get up and say, we actually like this country, stop trying to change it. You know, you've got people on the far left who hate everything about Australia. They hate Central Australia. You know, they want everything so beyond woke it's not funny. They want to change the way we think, the feel. We can't say anything. Now, there have to be limits, and we do have to evolve. But this protest is a problem. The fact that it's being amplified by neo-Nazi groups, that's not what I consider Australian. I do not believe in the, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, white person, or even just whites. I believe in a fair Australia. And when I look at the Italians and Greeks who came to Australia in the 50s and 60s, they enhanced our way of life. Right now, we do have to be in a situation where if you come to this country, you have to integrate into our society. And I don't mean that as being xenophobic. As I said, the Greek cultures and Italian cultures really added to our culture. And there's a lot of people who from Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, China, who have all come here and added to our culture as well. But what you can't do is come here and expect Australia to change to your way of life. And you can't expect Australia to live by your religion and your rules. Because if we went into your country, that certainly wouldn't be happening. So where does that leave the vast majority of us? The problem is there's a lot of people who would like to go and show their support for a protest like this, but this isn't the one to do it on. This is the things that I don't think most Australians stand for. Yep, we want Aussie values and we want to be proud of who we are, but this is going further than that. This is going beyond that kind of rhetoric. This is going to the extreme right. And extremism in both sides is bad. I will criticise the hard left, but I will also criticise the hard right. I think most of the people who watch this show are centrists, smart centrists. We skew left and right on issues, but that's what the smart people do. We don't just take one position. We think about an issue and we go, I agree with the lefties on that one, or I agree with the right. Don't go to this. Forget the antics from people who are yelling up and down saying you're a racist and calling all of Australia racist because this protest is happening. But we do need to be careful, because this is falling into a trap by letting some extremists run the race. They give Australia a bad name. We need to be smarter. Have a protest, but have it about the richness that is Australia. Labelling it anti-immigration as a recipe for disaster. It is a recipe for disaster. All right, let me know your feedback. What do you think? Am I being over the top there, or should we all be very careful? YouTube.com/@McKnight tonight is the place to go. All right, now it's time for Rob's rant. Yes, I am a crybaby, and I finally made a sting because Travis Merton sent me a version which was actually pretty good, and Jasmine said I should have used that, but you know me, I've got to go over the top. But we might show that one tomorrow. It's really, really good. I'm not sure how high the quality was, but Travis, you kicked me into gear and I did that. Can we have another look, please, Amanda? I love it. I'm so happy with this. Fantastic. If I do say so myself. I just realised, that's really good. What great work. Yeah, I did it myself. All right, on to tonight's rant. Because Netflix has announced its sixth price rise since launching in Australia in March 2015. From September, the premium plan jumps $3 to a whopping $28.99 per month. That's almost double the $14.99 a month we were charged when Netflix first launched. The standard plan with ads will increase by $2 to $9.99 a month, and the ad-free standard plan raises $2 to $20.99. I don't mean to be I told you so, but I told you so. McKnight was right. We have a problem here. So Netflix was the darling of Wall Street when it was basically getting lots of subscribers through the door. And then all of a sudden Wall Street went, no, we don't care about your subscriber numbers. We care about your profits. And Netflix stock actually started diving. Netflix then turned around and said, all right, you want profits? We'll give you profits. They increased everything. They added the ad tier. And on that, here is the kicker. Business Insider reports Netflix ad-supported plans earns more revenue per user than the ad-free tier. And analysts believe the company is deliberately steering customers towards it. I've got a headline there, Amanda, just to prove it. See that? Does the future for Netflix's growth and all streaming lie in advertising? And the simple answer is yes. They don't make as much money from you being on that $28.99 tier that it will become, as opposed to you being on the cheaper tier and watching ads. It's a double dip. Remember when Foxtel first came out and we went, okay, we pay for a subscription service. And then they started putting ads in and it's like, why am I getting ads for something I pay for? What is the benefit? And the streaming services sold us a pup. They all said, they basically made us believe, pay for streaming, no ads, you can binge all the shows, vast library. And it was a magical time. Remember? A magical time. Hasn't all that changed? The streamers all criticised broadcast television, and now they are stealing all the elements of broadcast television. They've added ads. They're chasing sport in a big way. And I cannot say this enough. And anyone who's listened to me on John Stanley, 2GB and 4BC and watched me on Inside Media when I was doing that for 7, and possibly I've said it on Media McKnight, here is what will happen with sporting streaming rights. The Albanese government has not protected the digital rights on the anti-siphoning list. The anti-siphoning list is the list of sports that must be broadcast on free-to-air TV. Now, the networks went to Anthony Albanese and the Labor government and said, the world is changing. We need you to include digital rights, not just the linear free-to-air rights. So what that means is the networks currently have it for the aerial you plug in, but if you watch it on 7 Plus, 9 Now, 10 Play, the rights aren't protected there. But the Albanese government said, we're not doing that. It was part of a bigger play with taking something from News Corp but giving them this, because obviously News Corp at the time owned Foxtel. Foxtel wanted sporting rights. And so we are left with a situation where I might be able to watch the NRL on my TV, but if you don't have the aerial anymore, and we know that about at least 30% of Australians don't have an aerial, but 60-something% of Australians watch TV through the apps of the networks. So I'll be able to watch the NRL, but it's possible that if you're only watching through 9 Now, you won't be able to, because what can happen and is likely to happen, these streamers with big money are going to come in, buy the sporting rights, and then on-sell the free-to-air rights to whoever wants them. And I've spoken with executives at the networks who say, if we can only get the linear rights, the digital rights are worthless, because it's a two-part system. Seven just released their financial results this week, and their biggest growth was in 7 Plus. As TV revenue comes down, the sales and the revenue from 7 Plus are going up. They have changed their digital strategy. They have put more time and investment into growing the revenue there, and it's working. So if 7 can get the AFL, but they can't for their linear stream, but they can't get the digital rights, there is no point them having AFL. So then the AFL, a couple of games might go to the ABC or SBS, or a case is made where the streamers say, well, we can't give these away. 7 won't take them. You can take AFL off the anti-siphoning list. Mark my words. In 5 to 10 years, but closer to 5, you are going to be paying to watch sport. These streamers just want to take and take and take from us. And where do their profits go? Not here in Australia. They pay less tax than you and I do. Than average workers in Australia, they pay less tax because all their profits go overseas. And do you know how they do it? All right, you've got Netflix, right? So, or actually, let's not use real companies. Let's just say Rob's streaming service, right? So, I'm a big international company. I've got Rob's streaming service. Now, what I do is Ireland has great tax incentives for businesses. So, I set up a company in Ireland. Now, this company is going to be the distribution company. So, anything that Rob's streaming service produces is on-sold through the Ireland company, which might be called Rob Streaming Service Distribution Limited, Party Limited or whatever, right? So then when Rob Streaming Service Australia gets those rights, it's not just handed to them. I have to buy, that stream Australian arm has to buy them from the Irish distribution, which means that I'll essentially pay close to 90% of the value of the revenue that I'm earning to offset the tax implications in Australia. So I can write that off as a tax deduction. If I might be drawing $10 million from Australia, but I'm paying $9.5 million in distribution costs to my own company, albeit a different part of the company with a different name and, structure. But essentially, I'm paying my own company over the odds to get that product to reduce my tax in Australia. I love the big streaming companies. I love having all that here, but we're being taken for a ride. And as they try to get Wall Street to think they're the darlings, this cycle of paying for it is going to keep rising, and they're going to keep double dipping. I'm just over it. I'm over being taken for a ride. How do I make money? What about me? And that's Rob's rant. I am a crybaby. I am a crybaby. And there is more rants in the coming days and weeks and forevermore. I will be here to rant. Now, coming up shortly, I will be bringing you that story from Monday, the back-end quickie that we didn't have loaded up. Amanda, she made a terrible mistake. Terrible mistake. She's, I shouldn't even joke. It was my mistake, for the record. We all knew that. That was the joke, Amanda. That was the funny part of it. All right, in a moment, we're taking you behind the curtain of reality TV. And now, though, I think it's time for a random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
Yes, it's time for our random live shot of the day. And tonight we are heading to the slopes, the wonderful slopes. This is Burke Street at Mount Buller in Victoria. In Victoria, one of Australia's most famous beginner ski runs. Sorry, I've had a bit of a problem because I was trying to fix my auto cue. I'm just going to be honest. And I also have to be honest, this is not live. This is from earlier tonight because the slopes closed just as we were going on air, and I made the decision to go back on the YouTube timeline to when people were still skiing down. So this is an hour or two, I think it's about an hour and a half before the slopes closed at 9 o'clock. It is a gentle slope right in the heart of the village, served by a high-speed 6-seater chairlift that gets you to the top in just 2 minutes. The run is perfect for first-timers, but it's also a place where you'll see families, ski schools, and a few seasoned locals just soaking in the alpine views. And tonight, with the fresh snow, with the snow still fresh and the lights glowing, it's the perfect winter postcard to wrap up your day. And I have seen a few people falling down here. Hang on, this guy's going fast. No, he looks like he knows what he's doing. No crashes. Isn't that terrible? I was hoping for a crash. Will we get one? Oh, this guy looks in trouble. No. Oh, this guy's coming down fast. No. Everyone here looks as though they know what they're doing. Oh, well. Well, he's a bit... No crashes. No world's worst no crashes. Let's take a look at some feedback coming through to McKnight tonight. And we've got this one from Travis, who says, arrived home from work to a nice surprise. My shiny new McKnight Tonight mug. Travis, I'm so glad that it arrived. I'm very happy to hear that. Great stuff. All right, let's get on to the serious topics because we've had some stuff coming through. Michael T says, Trump has emboldened this wave of neo-Nazi and anti-immigration movements here. The hypocrisy is that modern Australia was built on immigration. I absolutely agree with that, Michael, and it's well worth remembering. Dylan says, yay, a stinger. Yes, we've got a stinger for you. Rob's rant is here. We've got this one from Restoration Archive. This is regarding the August 31 protest. The government only listens to extremists, so maybe we do need to spell it out. There's certainly truth in that. Travis says, glad you like the sting. Just something I did when I was bored, lol. Well, we might show everyone tomorrow, Travis. Leo's Life Adventures says, spot on, Rob. Every weekend there's protests here in Melbourne and most people are over it. I couldn't think of anything worse than going into the city on the weekend. It's that bad. I've got a little message here from Max. Hi, Rob, the man, I think, from Minto. I think I used to know Max in the old Minto days. So good, Max, that you found McKnight tonight. Yes, I'm still alive from old Dunlop Way in Minto I used to live. Dylan says, I'm sorry, this is on the Netflix price increases. I'm sorry, but I refuse to pay for ads. I will cancel Netflix before I pay for ads. I think it'll get to that point, Dylan. Gareth D says, I think the far right is growing as many working class Anglo-Australians in urban fringe or regional areas feel left behind while skilled new migrants who speak English thrive. Yeah, and there is people feeling disenfranchised. That's certainly true. Leo's Life Adventures. All these streamers are going to continue to increase subscriptions. The magic is over. They will all introduce ads. We've already got rid of Foxtel and Stan. Netflix may be next. Well, we're all having to make hard decisions, Leo. all having to make hard decisions. Restoration Archive says there won't be free-to-air rights in the future. NRL will just sell direct to the public like NBA do in the US. Yeah, probably right. Dylan says, Rob, this is probably one of your best rants. Geez, Dylan, I've gone off on a few. Spencer says, need a camera on the ceiling for when you're demonstrating on paper. Very good point, Spencer. Thought I was going to that camera, but I'm going to that camera. Very good point, Spencer. Could you? I'd be doing that. I'm thinking of getting a big wide one for the opening shot because 2 cameras aren't enough. We need 3. We need 4. We need a desk cam, all that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll look into that. Thanks for your feedback. There is more to come. I will be getting to your feedback after a few more bits and pieces. You are watching McKnight Tonight.
It's a different take
Oh my God, she's a Republican. She must be racist.
on the news of the day.
A kid should have the right to punch back against a bully without consequences.
Join Rob McKnight for the home internet streaming show that's very different to the rest.
My BS detector is going through the roof.
Streaming live Monday to Thursday at 9 p.m.
I am so pumped for McKnight Tonight.
Subscribe now at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight.
Yep, there it is, the McKnight Tonight trailer. What do you think? Do you like it? Well, if you do, share it with your friends. Help us get the word out. All right, moving on. And we've all seen it. Reality TV contestants turned into heroes, heartbreakers, or outright villains overnight. Mike Gunner first appeared on Married at First Sight in 2019 and more recently on Love Triangle. Tonight he's here to reveal the truth about how reality TV is made and what it's like to live through being a reality TV show villain. Hello, Mike. Welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Hang on, did you just say I'm a villain? I don't know about that.
Isn't that how you described yourself?
Did I? I don't remember it, but it's very likely that I was perceived as a villain.
Well, let's talk about that. Now, a little bit of background. Mike and I met, it was just last week, wasn't it, Mike? So I'm working on a project. Mike is a photographer. And yes, you can see the photo there. Very nice photos. Thank you, Mike. I've never looked so good. But I have to say, we started talking and having a good chat. And, of course, I recognised you from your appearances on Married at First Sight and Love Triangle. But I'm sure you talked about being a bit of a perceived to be the villain. Talk to me about that perception.
Look, you know, you have no control of how the public perceives you. You know, you go into these things, you put your best foot forward, you're optimistic, and I mean, you let the chips fall where they may. And I think it's a lottery. It's like I said, you've got no control. You just got to put your best effort out there, and hopefully it resonates with people.
When you first went on to Married at First Sight, what were you hoping to achieve? What did you want out of it?
You know, I thought it would be a good way to meet a girl. I'd found myself at a bit of a loose end. I was
Were
single.
you genuinely looking for love?
Yeah, no. I genuinely was, sincerely. I'd been single for a couple of months and I was dating, but, you know, nothing was sticking. I mean, this is the modern dating world, Rob. You know, it's a numbers game, unfortunately. You go on a bunch of dates to meet someone that you care about. And I feel like, I'm not sure if this is potentially the ratio I've landed on, but I feel like you've probably got to date about a dozen people before you really find someone that kind of captures your imagination.
Fair enough. Okay, so you've gone on looking for love and the wheels sort of came off while you were on Married at First Sight. Correct me if I'm wrong, it started pretty well, but then they did try to turn you into a bit of a villain, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Look, I think they had a villain for a bit, and, you know, he left because I suppose the nature of the show, you get the choice of staying or leaving depending on how your relationship's going, the success or otherwise. And the villain of the season kind of left, and I think they were scrambling for, all right, well, who can we make the bad guy? To be fair, there was a scene early on there that I you know, I shit the bed. Let's be honest. I said something on the beach to a girl, and I kind of never came out behind that shadow. So they were like, all right, well, he's the next obvious choice for a villain. We'll make this guy look like an asshole. And it was a successful, attempt at doing that.
It's interesting because when I met you the other week, you're a really great guy. I really enjoyed our conversation. You're very good at what you do. But I feel like the public might have a bit of a different perception about you. Is that because of the villain edit? And how do they achieve the villain edit? Don't you have to do certain things to be able to be used in a villain edit?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Look, people's opinions are their own. Everybody has a right to an opinion, and that's fine. I respect that. What people think of me is honestly of no consequence to me these days. I've done 2 of these shows now. I've heard every criticism you can imagine. Honestly, it's like water off a duck's back now. I just take it as a compliment.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you.
I mean, I just think it's very. The bravado says, "Oh, it doesn't bother me," but we're human beings. If you're getting media attention in a negative light, it has to affect you.
Look, all things being equal, I have certainly thickened my skin. But one of the things that I've come to embrace is a philosophy. I'm a student of Stoic philosophy, and the thinking there is that, if it's something that you can't change, then don't worry about it. Don't concern yourself with something that's out of your control, essentially. I fall back on that a lot. And the other thing is, look, everyone's got an opinion. I mean, you only need to spend 5 minutes online to see everybody says something about whatever topic it might be. And so, look, and often these ill-conceived concepts, they're irrational, or this is just a person who their opinion is of no consequence to me. I mean, you put a camera on anyone for a 3-month period in a relationship, they're going to say things that, look terrible. I mean, that is just the nature of this. And,
So do the production crew protect people then?
Protect's a bit strong. Look, it's out of their control. They sort of let loose, this show into the public, internationally as well.
No, but they choose what they pick. As you say, you follow someone for 3 months, there are going to be bad and good situations. Do the production team pick, no, you've done something bad, but we're not going to show that? Because editing and not showing something is as good as making a decision to show something of someone in a bad light. If someone does something bad and you protect them from that, you are making decisions on how people will perceive the people in that cast.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, I mean, they have ultimate control. And I suppose, look, they're here to make television. And I understand that that's what their job is. And, that, they're trying to set about making a highly successful television, which it is in the case of Married at First Sight.
Sure.
So, we're cannon fodder. If you don't know that going in, then you are just, you're just deceiving yourself. And so, I then went on to do another television show, knowing full well that the consequences could be dire. And they were to a lesser extent, but I definitely got a lot of feedback from those, from that show.
Well, that's the question. Why did you do it again?
I'm a sucker for punishment. I mean, what more can I say? They called me up and said, listen, we've got this show. It was the executive producer of Married at First Sight. She created this other show called Love Triangle. And on the face of it, I mean, she described it as being a shortened version of Married at First Sight without any of the sort of the fluff. It's like, let's get straight into it. Essentially, you're dating 2 people who both, in the end, you're living with. I mean, you may as well throw a mongoose in with a python. I mean, something's going to happen. Nobody knows who's going to win, but it ain't going to be boring. And so, look, and she said this thing to me, and she knows I'm susceptible to flattery. And she said, Mike, we could really use a guy like you, just to make sense of the ridiculousness that's no doubt going to unfold. I'm a logical person. I'm rational. I'm reasonable. I like to think, and I'm happy to chip in and pitch in on situations that get spicy in the group. And I think they needed that kind of a figure in this particular season, and I was their man.
Well, you were their man, and you did cop I guess it was fun criticism about mentioning Married at First Sight, in Love Triangle, like that you were on that show. Do you think you overplayed that a bit?
All right, in my defense, because I'm going to defend myself a lot here tonight.
Absolutely.
The thing is, okay, picture this for those people that haven't seen it. I've never met this woman. I arrive at a beach and there's cameras everywhere and, production running around. And so I'm now sat on the sand on a blanket with a picnic, and I'm meeting this woman for the first time. Now, the producer, my field producer, said, Mike, listen, make sure you ask her if she recognises you from MAFS. Now, I would never normally go on a date and ask this.
This is interesting because you did cop a lot of crap for that, but you've been told to do it.
Well, that's right. And people don't know this. And by the way, I asked her the once, and you can see me be a bit sheepish about it. I was like, oh, by the way, can you, recognize me from anywhere? And to basically appease what my producer had said. But then we went for a break and she goes, oh, could you ask her again? I'm like, well, we've already been through that. She gave me an answer and she doesn't apparently recognize me. So why? She goes, oh, we want a different angle. I'm like, oh, my God.
That old chestnut.
So I asked again. I know. I was silly. I should have just gone, no, that's enough. Like, I should have dug my heels in. So then when you watch it back, it's like me, sort of badgering this woman. Are you sure you don't recognize me? Fun fact, though, she did actually recognize me in there because a couple of nights later, she admitted to it. She goes, I did recognize you, by the way. This was off camera. A lot of what you didn't see a lot in that show. It's only 8 episodes and they got 5 sort of groups of people to examine over the story. Yeah. And some of the things that my 2 matches had said and done didn't make it to air. All my worst stuff did, but all their worst stuff just hit the cutting room floor. I'm like, wait, what happened when she jumped on the beds with her shoes on, like when we first got to the house? Or what about when she called me this, that, or the other and the kitchen went off her brain? And it just didn't work into their narrative of their story. So, I was just there left holding the bag, and these girls look, they looked a lot better than what they could have, put it that way.
This is my point that I brought up before, though. The stuff that's left out and the production team making decisions on who they want to paint in a good light and a bad light. And it sounds like they protected the 2 women, but didn't protect you in Love Island, in Love Triangle.
Let me give you an example, Rob, that I think speaks to for me. It speaks to the psychology of people that consume these shows. There was an example that I'll give you in my season of Married at First Sight, where there was a guy, Sam, who was the villain that I mentioned that left early. Yeah. He was actually a really nice guy, by the way, like a really likable guy. And he was matched with a woman called Lizzie, who, if there's ever been a more irritating human being on the planet, I'm glad I've not met them. So this girl, Lizzie, she arrives at the wedding and she sees Sam out of the window of the limousine. By the way, you can see all this in the episode. This is all, you can play it back and watch this. And as she looks out the window, she sees him in the distance. He's faced the other way, and he's a big guy. He's a muscly guy. He's in great shape. But from behind, he looked big, solid. And she said to the producer, she said, oh, my God, he looks a bit chunky. He looks a bit porky, were her words, right? Nobody bats an eyelid.
Yeah.
Later in that episode, Sam was asked, is she your type? What do you think? She's a bit bigger girl. She's a little bit bigger, but, do you think she's your type? He said, yeah, okay, fine. She's a little bit bigger, but, maybe we'll get out there running and we'll maybe work on diet and things and we'll whip her into shape. Now, he was dragged through the mud for that. And yet nobody bats an eyelid when she's body shaming him. So for me, that example kind of typifies this double standard, a recurring double standard in not only reality television, but in society in general.
It's so true, mate. And there's so much that I would love to talk to you about what happens behind the scenes. We're going to have to get you back on McKnight tonight because I think you're a great guy. I will genuinely say that. And it's been a fascinating chat. Thanks for joining us on McKnight tonight.
Absolutely. Good to meet you, Rob.
Yeah, you too, mate. Okay, let's take a look at some feedback coming through to McKnight tonight. Spencer Howson says, we were talking about an extra camera and I mentioned I might be putting up a wide shot. Spencer says, yes, a wide cam which shows Amanda and Jazz. Well, Jasmine doesn't like the idea of that. She's sitting here in her pajamas. She does it in her pajamas every night. All right, over the page we've got Travis says, we need a cam on Amanda that can be cut down to when Rob annoys her, like they used to cut to Pam Barnes on Hey Hey. We'd be cutting to her all the time, just with her going, "Rrr." All right, over the page we go, and we've got Own Your Own. Oh, Matthew says, can't live be used in the sense of unedited? Okay, yeah, I know what you're saying. The term live, can't it be used in the sense that if something is unedited? Wasn't there something a few years ago when, sorry, Jasmine, it's gone, when both Today and Sunrise at the PM had the PM on at the same time, both claiming to be live. Yeah, and the way it works is that in sporting events, you can be playing something half an hour behind and still call it live. I think having the PM pre-recorded and still claiming it to be live is absolutely outrageous. And there's actually just no need for it. Did anyone care the fact that I had taken that YouTube clip back? It's just about owning it. The shot was boring. No one was in it. And that's why I took it back. But it doesn't hurt. I don't see people sending us in feedback going, I'm never watching McKnight tonight again because you took the footage back on the random live show of the day. It wasn't actually live. No, it's about being honest about it. Anyway, that's my take on that. All right, Own Your Crazy says, I don't like how today's batch of reality shows celebrate the darker side of human nature. It's about scheming and backstabbing, rarely anything positive. And that's why it'll be interesting to see how Big Brother does when it returns to 10, because it really sounds like they're going for normal, authentic people. Over the page we go. Dylan says, curious to hear if Rob thinks a format like The Circle and if it could work in Australia. Love The Circle. I love The Circle. And yeah, I do think it could work in Australia. In fact, when I first saw The Circle on UK TV, I actually contacted executives in Australia and said, get The Circle. But Netflix beat them to the punch and took out the worldwide rights. So I don't think that will be possible. All right, we've got Michael here saying, when it comes to tentpole reality TV, they are ultimately entertainment programs. A dull edit doesn't rate. You can choose to not like a show, but you can't ignore the ratings. Absolutely, Michael. As long as we know there is no reality in reality TV. You're absolutely right. Okay, before we move on to our back-end quickie, I just want to bring you with a story that has dropped on The Australian only a few minutes ago. We'll take my computer. This is my live computer. And as you can see, this is The Australian right now. 5-year-olds taught their body parts may not match their gender. I'm just going to go into that, and because this is, you can tell, this is going to be a big story tomorrow. Victoria's curriculum has been updated to teach children as young as 5 that their body parts may not match their gender and that biologically male students who identify as female are entitled to play sport on girls' team. Concern over the Respectful Relationships curriculum, which is quietly amended in August last year, comes as parents and psychiatrists warn of school-to-clinic pipeline for children struggling with adolescents who are persuaded they were born in the wrong body and pushed towards irreversible and often harmful medical treatment. Initiated in 2016 as a response to Victoria's Family Violence Royal Commission, Respectful Relationships is a teaching resource designed by the State Education Department with the aim of preventing family violence by promoting gender equality and teaching children about respectful relationships. And this is a story by Rachel Baxendale. There's a few problems in there, isn't there? Because I'm all for respectful relationships, but I don't want my 5-year-old being taught that their body parts may not match their gender. I think 5's way too young for one, but also that's up to me as an adult, as a father, to decide what I want my kids to know about that. And if they've got concerns, hopefully I've built a loving relationship where they can come and talk to me. I'll tell you right now, if any of my kids were trans, I would be fully supportive. It wouldn't be a problem. But I also don't think that it is the school's position to start educating people that, well, you might think you're a girl, but just because you've got that vagina doesn't mean you're a girl. That's not their place. And there's resources and ways they can deal with it. And I'll tell you right now, this is the line that's going to make news tomorrow. I guarantee you it'll be on all the breakfast TV shows, this story. Because where was it? Biologically male students who identify as female are entitled to play sport on girls' teams. So you're biological male. That means you have a penis and you can play on female teams. I'm not for that. I'm going to be honest. I'm not for it. There are mixed teams. We often see in soccer and all those kind of sports where girls and boys play together, fine. But if it is a specifically female team, I don't think it's right. This is going to be a big one tomorrow. It might even be going full steam that I tackle it tomorrow night, but be across that because it's going to be a big one. But let's change pace. All right. Oh, it's there already. Because, yes, it's time for a back-end quickie. Settle down. Maybe have a sip of your favourite beverage out of your McKnight Tonight cup. I've put a post up on the YouTube page so you can find where to buy them. Because YouTube took down the shopping tab for some reason. I don't know. I've broken some law that I'm not aware of. So, let's have this back-end quickie because this video has a couple of weird things going on. There's a bear and there's a sporting mascot. But what are they doing together at a river where there are fish?
While we were fishing, we had a pretty close call with a couple bears. Got a bear.
Oh, I gotta break you off now.
Okay.
Hey Sam, we got a bear. We gotta move down.
Oh my God.
Go right where they are.
Okay.
You gotta come right here.
I want to blame it on Bowie. They were pretty interested in his whole look, so we got out of it okay, but it was a close call. That last little sprint, I was very
Was it worth the wait? From Monday. So Bowie is the official mascot of the Seattle Kraken. It's a hockey team apparently, and he goes fishing in the water and gets chased by bears. There you go. I can already see your feedback coming through. I tell you what, Jasmine, I'm going to do something cray-cray. Let's take some of this feedback because I brought it up. So let's see what people are saying if you can go over to the social. Jasmine, the reason I'm talking to Jasmine, she's having a little bit of a switch. We've put her in charge of the switcher for the last part of the show. So yes, Jasmine, bring it up. And Restoration Archive says, if they keep indoctrinating kids into this crap, it will end the human race. Whereas Michael says, the Australian have a history to alarmist stories on gender issues. I would wait to see where this story has come from and from who and why. Something for Media Watch, I hope. The truth matters. Absolutely it does, Michael. And look, I hear your point about what you're saying about the Australian, but I also think it is a legitimate story, and if they did make this change in August and it hasn't been picked up, I think that is of valid public debate, whatever side of politics you're on there. Dylan says, we need a back-end quickie stinger. Back onto the breaking news. Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong one there. Spencer Howson says, unfortunately, some parents won't have these conversations with kids. If not schools and teachers, who can our kids turn to? Spencer, that is a fair point. But, and there's a big but here, what age? I personally think 5's too young. I don't want my 5-year-old thinking about that stuff. Now, I know my 13-year-old is aware of sexuality and bodies and all that kind of stuff. But 5 years old, I don't want them being told anything about that kind of stuff. It can wait. It can wait. You know, maybe year 7's the go, where they can have a much more mature decision. And I know, I can hear you already, Spencer, saying that, yes, but it's affecting kids before they reach that age. I understand that, and absolutely I do. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but I think 5's too young to have that discussion. But we'll see what the mob says tomorrow. Dylan says, our kids are struggling to teach the basic curriculum. Not sure if adding more to the curriculum is the answer. And Spencer says, maybe add another hour of school each day. Many kids are at school for OSC before and after classes anyway. All right, thank you for all your feedback. It's been a big episode. Is this the longest one we've done? Sorry about that. Get to bed, everyone, because tomorrow night it's Tipsy Thursday and we'll want you for that one. Get ready for a big one. Will it be the wine? Will it be the bourbon? Or will it be something else? We'll find out tomorrow on McKnight Tonight. Oh, and for TV lovers, my guests will be the new hosting team of 9 News Queensland. Yes, Melissa Downs and Joel Dry, they will be here having a chat about the fact they are starting on Monday. I'll get all the goss right here on McKnight Tonight. See you tomorrow.
It's a different take
Oh my God, she's a Republican. She must be racist.
on the news of the day.
A kid should have the right to punch back against a bully without consequences.
Join Rob McKnight for the home internet streaming show that's very different to the rest.
My BS detector is going through the roof.
Streaming live Monday to Thursday at 9 p.m.
I am so pumped for McKnight Tonight.
Subscribe now at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight.
Here comes